Election yard is here, and it's the day after the 2025 New Jersey gubernatorial primary. We have two winners. The Democrats have nominated Mikie Sherrill, and the Republicans have nominated Jack Ciattarelli. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to briefly run through the results and then set the stage for November's general election. So the Democratic winner, Mikie Sherrill, she is a congresswoman from the 11th district. That's in north central New Jersey. It includes Morristown and Montclair. She was first elected to Congress in the Democratic wave year of 2018. Meanwhile, the Republicans have nominated for a second time Jack Ciattarelli. He's a former state assemblyman from the central Jersey area. Like I mentioned, the GOP nominee in 2021, he ran a pretty close race with Phil Murphy, who at the time was running for a second term. Ended up being very close. He only lost by 3 points or so. So these two, Mikie Sherrill and Jack Ciattarelli, they will be facing off in the November general election. But first, what we're going to do before we talk about that, let's tie a bow on these two primaries. Let's start with the GOP side. These results, of course, have not yet been finalized, but even if they were to change somewhat, would they really change at all? I mean, look at them. Ciattarelli was the clear winner here. He got about 68% of the vote. He is the GOP nominee for the second straight election as he tries to become governor of New Jersey. So his main challenger, whom he beat in this race, was Bill Spadea. He is a former radio talk show host who is well known in parts of New Jersey. He also ran a pretty conservative campaign, but that did not get him Donald Trump's endorsement. That went to Jack Ciattarelli. At the end of the day, Spadea ended up getting about 22% of the vote. Nobody else here got into double digits, and that includes John Bramnick, who is a state senator and a noted moderate. He only got about 7% of the vote, so everybody else was pretty muted in terms of results. So to that end, looking at the results, we're going to put the map up on the screen, and there's only one color that we had to fill in here because Jack Ciattarelli won every single county in the state, which you might expect from somebody who's getting about 68% of the vote. So not only did Ciattarelli win every county in the state, most really weren't even that close. The closest one was Mercer County, which is the home to Trenton. This also happens to be Spadea's home turf. Ciattarelli got about 48% of the vote there, and Spadea got 41%. So close, but not close enough. In fact, Mercer County, home to Trenton, was the only one where Ciattarelli didn't get above 50%. So in a 5-candidate race, that's a sign of a pretty thorough beatdown. There were counties where Ciattarelli was getting 70, 80% of the vote. And it's interesting, too, because there were other candidates like Ciattarelli who were touting their support of Donald Trump that were running to the right, like Spadea, like Mario Kranjak. But Ciattarelli had run before, Ciattarelli had Trump's blessing, and I think at the end of the day, that's not only what helped put him over the top, but helped him win in a landslide. Now we're going to look at the Democratic results. This was a 6-candidate race, and at the end of the day, it was a pretty hotly contested race. You had some credible candidates in there. Not a lot of polling, so there was some room for error. Well, Mikie Sherrill's only polling in the high 20s, low 30s. Could another candidate make this interesting? Well, at the end of the day, they did not. The conventional wisdom going into this primary was that it was Mikie Sherrill's to lose. The conventional wisdom was right. Even though it was a pretty split field, 34% actually is a good result for Sherrill in this field. She was well ahead of Ras Baraka, the mayor of Newark, who came in second and got about 21% of the vote. Steve Fulop, the mayor of Jersey City, he came in third with 16%. Then Josh Gottheimer, congressman from the 5th district in North Jersey, he came in fourth, got about 12% of the vote. Sean Spiller, he's the head of a teachers union and the former mayor of Montclair, he came in fifth on about 11% of the vote. And then Steve Sweeney came in last place. He was the former president of the state senate. He got about 7% of the vote. So moving over to the map now, there is some information to be taken from this. The predominant color, as you can see here, is blue. That is Mikie Sherrill. She clearly won the most counties in the state here. So now the only candidate in this race that didn't carry any counties was actually, surprisingly, the candidate who came in third. That was Steve Fulop. He's from Hudson County, Jersey City. That county went to Mikie Sherrill. Other than that, most, not all, but most candidates carried their home areas. For example, Sherrill won big in Morris County, which is a part of her congressional district. Josh Gottheimer carried Bergen County, which is part of his congressional district. Ros Baracus from Essex County, which is home to Newark, and he carried that. Steve Sweeney carried 2 counties in South Jersey, and if you look at a map of his old legislative district down there, the counties pretty much overlap that district. Now, interestingly, Spiller was the mayor of Montclair, which is in North Jersey, but he randomly carried a county in South Jersey. Go figure. But other than that, what do you see? You see Sherrill blue. Now, Mikie Sherrill was the most effective candidate in this Democratic primary at expanding the map outside of her geographic footprint. Now, sometimes what you can get in New Jersey politics, especially in a primary, if you've got candidates from North Jersey and South Jersey, sometimes you can get a split geographically. But in this case, Sherrill did pretty well at winning all over the state, which nobody else here can say that they did. At the end of the day, Mikie Sherrill beat back some credible challengers here, so you can't say that she didn't earn this nomination. Anyway, to close this out, let's take a look at the November general election. This is where we're all going to be paying attention. We're going to start this race under the assumption that this will be lean or even likely Democratic to hold this seat. There are a number of reasons for this. First, let's start with the most obvious. It's New Jersey. Now, you might be saying, hey, you, this state had a Republican governor, Chris Christie, not that long ago. So how can you say, well, it's New Jersey, a Democrat's just going to win? Well, it's not quite that simple, but in order for a Republican to win the governorship in New Jersey, a few things have to be going in their direction. So some things have to just be going right. For example, if you want to look at that election that Chris Christie won, he was facing an incumbent Democratic governor, John Corzine. Now, Corzine's deal is that he was strongly disliked in the state, and there was a Democrat in the White House, so the momentum was carrying against the Democratic Party. Also, in 1993, you had a situation where Christine Todd Whitman, the Republican, flipped this seat. She was facing an incumbent Democrat, Jim Florio, who was also strongly disliked, and there was a Democrat in the White House. So you can see some common threads between those two elections in 1993 and 2009. Also, another common thread between those two elections was that both of those wins for Whitman in 93 and Christie in 2009, they were 1 year before a big GOP midterm wave year. Now, never say never, but going on to the second point here, I do not think we are heading for a big GOP wave year in 2026. Nor does it look like it's going to be a great year for them in 2025, the Republicans, either here in New Jersey or down in Virginia, which is going to be the next one that we talk about. Furthermore, there is no incumbent in this race, so Mikie Sherrill probably is not going to be tied down by any baggage related to Phil Murphy or really anybody else's baggage for that matter. As for Jack Ciattarelli, he's pretty close to Donald Trump at this point. Of course, he got Donald Trump's endorsement in this primary. You can point to the fact that Ciattarelli did better than expected in 2021 when he narrowly lost to Phil Murphy. You could even point to the fact that Donald Trump did better than expected in 2024 against Kamala Harris here. Of course, both lost. But when it comes down to it, you have to question whether a MAGA candidate or a MAGA-aligned candidate can win in New Jersey, given the state of the state's politics. The conventional wisdom would suggest no, but that doesn't mean it's impossible. If it was impossible, we would have this state as safe Democratic, but for right now, we've got it as lean or likely. However, at the end of the day, I think you would have to acknowledge that it's going to be harder for Ciattarelli to win this race than Sherrill. So that's it. That's a look at New Jersey's gubernatorial primary and setting you up for that November general election. Virginia is going to be next. Their primary is on June 17th. For more on elections in the United States and in 2025, check out electionyard.com, subscribe to this YouTube channel, and follow us at electionyard.com on Blue Sky.